towards the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the spirit of guidance. Take these holy syllables and blow them into the palm of your hands. Raise them above your head and pour them over and through yourself. A shower of blessing. Today's teaching is on peace and balance, and the further title is Perfected Activity and Control of the Will. I begin with a quote today by Hazrat Inayat Khan, which reads, "Peace is perfected activity. That is perfect, which is complete in all its aspects, balanced in every direction, and under complete control of the will." Last month, we read the teaching of Hazrat Inayat Khan, which stated, "Will is not power, but it is the only power. It is all the power there is." How did God create the world? By will. Therefore, what we call willpower in reality is God power, a power that increases by our recognizing its potential. And this proves to be the greatest phenomenon in life. So we must recognize this potential and tune to God. The seed of that divine being is in our soul. So we tune this, we're tuning our soul like a fine radio wave or Bluetooth wave, if you will, but it's the God-tooth will. So today's teaching, we read, if we consider the conditions of life today, we see that however much one thinks one has progressed, certain aspects of life are neglected. And how much more true is this today than it was in Hazrat Inayat Khan's time? I mean, he passed in 1927, so these words were spoken before February 5th, 1927, when he left this world. And he goes on to say that we've neglected ourselves, and society has neglected itself in the way of health, repose, balanced thinking, and in the way of kindness and love to one another. All these things are lacking, and the spirit of the present time seems to be going in quite the opposite direction. Selfishness is to be so much on the increase. Real religion, the spirit of forgiveness, generous giving, regard for old age, refinement, culture, all these seem to be disappearing. And we also know that this is true, that we find that we tune into the news or even movies and television programs, and this idea of a kind of refinement and a balance of life and repose seems to not be even recognized anymore. If this is the spirit, how can we expect to find harmony, peace, and love, which makes a heaven on earth? In the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done, thy will, God's will, be done on earth as it is in heaven. But how can it possibly be unless we ourselves tune ourselves to harmony, peace, and love, thus making heaven on earth? And this, I think, is Murshid's indication to us. He's redirecting our inner compass and our outer manner in a way in which we can make heaven on earth. Murshid goes on in this teaching and says, it's useless to discuss peace on earth. What is necessary just now is to create peace in ourselves, that we ourselves become examples of love, harmony, and peace. The only way of saving the world and ourselves. Let us try to be more considerate of others. Let us ask ourselves, of what use am I in the world? Am I born for a certain purpose? Now, a few days ago, I was interviewed by Wally van der Swan. He's Dutch by birth, living in Germany, and an author of many spiritual books on the subject of Inayat Khan. And he's been asked to write the biography of my beloved teacher, or one of my beloved teachers, or the last of my living beloved teachers, Pir Murshid Hidayat Inayat Khan, the younger son of Hazrat Inayat Khan. And in our discussion, we were talking about discovering the purpose of life. And of course, Murshid Hidayat thought this was of great importance. And I was expressing to Wali that sometimes I think that, or I find, or I witness that the quest for spiritual elevation, advancement, is sometimes the greatest ego trip. And that's because I think people do that to replace having not found a purpose in their life. And so we must be guarded on that we shouldn't be too much in regard of seeking spiritual advancement or recognition, I should say. Inward spiritual advancement, yes, but discovering the purpose of life and living from that purpose and giving it to the world is the highest spiritual goal one could have. And Murshid goes on to say, and then we ask ourselves, am I born for a certain purpose? And then try to train ourselves in self-control by the mystery of breath, the best means for accomplishing that purpose. And so here, Murshid's emphasizing the importance of breath. And of course, I'm asking each one of you, I don't expect a report, but you answer within your own heart and soul. Are you true to these breath practices on a daily basis? Because here Murshid is saying, and then we train ourselves in self-control by the mystery of breath, the best means for accomplishing that purpose. And why is that? Well, in our last classes a year or more ago, we talked about the lamp is like a globe over the heart and the soul. And we even looked at diagrams that were concentric circles of soul moving towards consciousness, moving towards feelings, or heart moving towards mind or thought, and then eventually manifesting in the body. Well, we're given these purification breaths, and we're going to go through them below so that you'll have them. You can use them every day. And then you have no reason not to, because you'll have these instructions. So these are the instructions as given by our Murshid, Hazrat Inayat Khan. He says, inhalation and exhalations are done rhythmically in a restful, quiet manner, slower than the usual breath, yet slightly fuller. So here, just tune into your breath, your rhythm, and yet let it be very relaxed, and maybe slow it down a bit and let it become very full. Now, as we do these breaths, imagine that we're cleansing, wiping the dust from the globe of the lamp. Because in this way, this is what these breaths are doing. It's cleansing these different levels of existence within our being so that the pure light of the soul can emerge and the purpose of our life can be actualized. He says, while inhaling and exhaling, one's thoughts are focused on receiving and radiating the divine power in space. So it's like we become these solar collectors or these energy collectors of this divine power. We bring it into ourselves, we receive it, and then we radiate it out to the world. So we nurture ourselves, our being with this divine power in space, our inner space, and we let it radiate from our being to the outer space. And he says, divine power in space, which is the thing that purifies and revivifies, and which inspires and enables the soul to unfold. Enables the soul to unfold. There again, this seed deep within us, but covered up with all these various light shades, lamp shades, globes. It's like the onion of St. Teresa, that we peel these layers back till we get to the sweet pearl, which is the soul. And I would like to just explain a little bit about how this relates to our levels of consciousness. So there are 4 main breaths that are given, and they relate to earth, which is our body, the most, perhaps the most concrete manifestation of our being, but it also relates to the earth element. And we know that Murshid guides us to read the holy manuscript of nature. He says the only holy book that can illuminate the soul. So first is the earth, and the earth does purify. We know that. When people are in shock, what's done? Put them down on the earth, have them lie down, cover them up. We know that in some native traditions, moistened earth not only makes vessels, but it also is put on wounds to heal these wounds. So but the earth element also, what are the qualities? There's a stillness there. There's a feeling of stability, which can lead one to a kind of confidence and certainty within. So we're purifying this element of all traits of the ego to get to its pure essence. This is the most solid ground form. The next element, which will breathe, is water. And water we can see, we can collect it in vessels, but it evaporates. And it is also fluid. So while we can contain it in its natural form, it's constantly moving. Its motion is downhill descending. So it brings the Holy Spirit with its motion. It's cleansing. We know that we use this in baptism, in ritual bathing, in bathing in every day of our bodies to purify. We drink it to purify inward. But it also corresponds to our blood, our circulatory system, our lymphatic system, the fluids in our system. And what does water teach us? It teaches us to be fluid and to move with ease around obstacles, to not get stuck in life, to just keep moving gently. The next element on the elemental scale, and I'm moving upward, I'm using my fingers horizontally placed as a demonstration of this. So the next element is fire. Now, fire, while we can put a shade around it, we can't completely contain it because it will smother. And it's always dancing and moving. Fire also purifies. We know that things that need to be purified are heated to destroy so-called germs. And we also note that, what does it do? It creates warmth. We build bonfires to warm ourselves in winter. The sun is fire. It gives nourishment to the world and to the plants. And what does that fire element give to us? A warmth of heart, a brilliance of character, and it illuminates our path. The next element higher on the scale is air. Air, we can't see it, but we can feel it. And sometimes we can hear it rustling through the trees, the movement of the ocean, the whistling of the wind in the high mountaintops. It's a powerful force also, but it's unseen, isn't it? Well, it can move in every direction very quickly. And air purifies. I remember as a child, my mother on Saturdays, even when it was very cold in Missouri, she'd have us open all the doors and windows for just a short time to let the breeze run through the house and to purify what she called the stale air and to cleanse it of germs. So air is purifying also. And how is it represented in our body with our very breath? I want to go back to fire for a moment. How's fire represented in our body? By the warmth of our body. So the last element, which we won't be breathing today, is the etheric element. And this element is the last element, but it's the element, a very refined element from which all the elements are dispersed and through which all the elements return. And this is a blessed teaching in life, because as we pass, the first thing as we are moving towards our heavenly body, the first thing that grows weak is our physical body. And then perhaps the blood changes, the urine changes, things start, the lymphatic system and our circulatory system begin to become sluggish and slower. And then the body becomes cold to touch, and then the breath leaves, and then the body becomes etheric in nature. So Murshid's words, as we do these breaths, and they will move in 5 different directions. I'll give you the instructions and I'll say the words, but let me say them here. And they're said silently and inwardly by you, but I will say them outwardly for us to, for you to follow if you're not familiar with the phrases. The inhalation is silently repeating to oneself, I inhale divine light and life. So divine light, L-I-G-H-T, and life, L-I-F-E. And then after we take this in from the divine power and space, we radiated it out through every fiber of our being like a great lighthouse. And we say inwardly, I radiate divine life and light. So the first breath is in through the nose and out through the nose. And I just want to clarify again, the inhale is I inhale divine light, L-I-G-H-T, and life, L-I-F-E. And the exhale is I radiate divine life, L-I-F-E, and light, L-I-G-H-T. So there's kind of a neuro-linguistic twist to that, where the 2 words at the end shift between the inhalation and the exhalation. And I want to note that it will also be clearly written in the notes. And if you go to the study guide, the whole complete instructions is on a separate page at the end of the study guide document for you to refer to. So let us begin. We are breathing in through the nose and out through the nose in a natural, relaxed, yet slightly fuller motion. We're considering that this breath is coming in through our body, not only through our nostrils, filling our lungs, but that all of our skin and our whole system is breathing this breath. Everything is being absorbed, as Murshid said again, from the divine power in space. And we're breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. So let's exhale and breathe in while repeating silently, I inhale divine light and life, and exhale, I radiate divine life and light. Again, in through the nose, I inhale divine light and life. Out through the nose, I radiate divine life and light. Breathing in, I inhale divine light and life, and out, I radiate divine life and light. Repeat the last to yourself, in through the nose and out through the nose. The next element could be associated with water, the previous one with earth. Again, we're moving up the elemental scale. The nose, the breathing goes in through the nose and out through the mouth. Again, it's a descending motion, like water, a beautiful waterfall, bestowing blessings from the divine power of space upon us and through us. We breathe in. I inhale divine light and life. We breathe out. I radiate divine life and light. Breathe in the nose. I inhale divine light and life. Out through the mouth, I radiate divine life and light. In the nose, I inhale divine light and life. And out through the mouth, I radiate divine life and light. 2 more on your own silently. The next element is the element of fire. The motion of the breath moves in through the mouth. It descends as if to the fire in our belly and rises up as light as we breathe out through the nose. So we're breathing in through the mouth and out through the nose. The motion is ascending in through the mouth and out through the nose. The phrase again is, I inhale divine light and life. I radiate divine life and light. I inhale divine light and life out the nose. I radiate divine life and light in through the mouth. I inhale divine light and life. And breathing out through the nose, I radiate divine life and light. 2 more times on your own. Final breath that we will do here today is the air element, and the air has the capacity to move in every direction freely. It could be likened to the realm of the mind, intelligence, creativity. And the breath is in through the mouth and out through the mouth. Very subtly in through the mouth and out through the mouth. And not only through the mouth, but again, we draw this breath in through every cell and molecule of our being, from the skin inward, filling the lungs, filling the whole being, and radiating it out again. So with the phrase, I inhale divine light and life out through the mouth, I radiate divine life and light in through the mouth. I inhale divine light and life, and out through the mouth, I radiate divine life and light. 3 more on your own, breathing in and out the mouth on the phrase silently. And allow yourself to fall back into a natural breath, a natural rhythm. No phrase, just spaciousness. Now, here I'd like to offer a caveat, because this cycle of breaths, along with a 5th breath, is given, and it is given under different names and with different concentrations. So there's no dispute. These are the purification breaths. And I kind of commingled the teaching with the elemental breaths. So again, each breath has an element and a concentration. In other teachings, the concentration corresponds to direction, which I gave somewhat here, and also a color. The Sufi healing breaths are also given this way with a phrase. So these breaths are all the same, however, they're given different concentrations as the purification breaths, the elemental breaths, and the spiritual healing breaths. So why is it important to do these breaths every day? Well, as I said before, we are we could say bombarded or gifted with impressions that come from all around us, whether it's something we read in a book, the newspaper, the news, friends, people. And, this is all around us. These vibrations are all around us. And we can collect these vibrations and they become like dust on the mirror or steam on the bathroom mirror or dust on a lampshade or a globe. And in order to let the clarity of our souls shine through, these purification breaths can help us remove these impressions, to polish the mirror of the heart, the lamp of the soul, so that the true light can shine through. There's nothing more precious than that. And so please take a few minutes a day, preferably in the morning, but not necessarily. I do mine in the morning, and I find that it helps to clarify things. I also do them sometimes in the evening, especially if I've had an exceptionally stressful day, to remove those impressions before I sleep. So please use these practices to help aid you and support you in your daily life. Okay, now back to Murshid's teachings of the day. The secret behind the whole manifestation is vibration. Well, that's profound. To me, it is very profound because we know that the new science, the new physics is telling us everything is just vibrating, but at different frequencies. Murshid goes on to say, vibration, which may be termed movement, it is the differences of the vibration or of vibration, which may be divided into lines first, lines and lines. Again, I'm using my hand as a demonstration, holding out one finger and adding extra fingers so that it makes a plane facing the camera. So the difference of vibration, which is divided in lines, and they form planes of existence, each plane being different in rhythm of these vibrations. So how does this relate to this new physics? Well, the great beings that are manifesting these teachings through physics and science are saying that there's a belief that we actually have parallel universes that are happening simultaneously. And Murshid is saying it here, each plane being different in rhythm of these vibrations. And you yourself maybe have experienced this sort of moving between these planes of consciousness or these planes of existence. So when we take Murshid's words again here, I begin, when we take life as a whole, we can draw one line from beginning to the end. And now I'm holding my hands up as if I'm holding a string or a pole vertically. And so this demonstrates what Murshid is to say here. When we take life as a whole, we can draw one line. And again, it's a vertical line, moving up to down, the beginning and the end, or what we could call spirit and matter, or God and us, our individual self. We shall find that the rhythm which begins the line, the top of the pole or the top of the line, is fine and without disturbance. So we could call this the etheric element, couldn't we? And the rhythm which is felt at the end of the line is gross and disturbing. So as it moves through the planes, it gathers these vibrations. And these two rhythms may be named the life of peace and the life of sensation. Now, Mersha talks about this, peace and sensation, also the difference between exaltation and stimulation or sensation throughout his teachings. And so this is important to sort of let your ears hear and maybe do further research on your own. But he says, peace is independently felt within. It is not dependent upon outer circumstances or outer sensation. And so how do we know this? Well, if we're a meditator at all, we know that under any circumstance, if we've even once touched that place of peace, it becomes a touchstone to return to. And we find that outer sensation, while pleasurable and of course interesting to curious minds, isn't all there is to life. And sometimes, in fact, it can be rather disappointing or tiring. So having that repose, which Murshid spoke of very early in this teaching, the ability to turn within and quiet oneself and go to that, your peaceful lotus pad, so to speak, is such a gift. And furthermore, it creates a kind of independence in us where we are no longer dependent upon outer circumstances or people to fulfill us and to give us joy and happiness and peace. Now, I'd like to remind us, if you've read any of the biographies or teachings of Mahatma Gandhi or Sri Aurobindo, great yogi of India, or Nelson Mandela, you know that these gentlemen, all in the quest for freedom, were imprisoned. And I know that Gandhi and Sri Aurobindo endured the most harsh conditions in the most treacherous prison in India during the liberation of India. But what happened during those times? While the outer circumstances were so difficult, even life-threatening, they turned within. And what did they find there? A deep peace that couldn't be destroyed even with death. And they got illuminated, even enlightened during that difficulty. And I believe the same is true with the Nelson Mandela. What a great being of our contemporary world. So these are great examples that we can take upon ourselves. So Murshid again says, peace is independently felt within oneself. It is not dependent upon outer sensation. It is something that belongs to us, something that is our own self. Peace is not knowledge. Peace is not power. Peace is not happiness. But peace is all of these. Peace is productive of happiness. Peace inspires us with knowledge of the seen and the unseen. And in peace, it is found the divine presence. It is not the excited one who conquers the world in this continual battle of life. It is the peaceful one who tolerates all, forgives all, who understands all, and assimilates all things. In the next audio file, you'll hear a story of Columbine High School, which experienced on April 20th, 1999, a mass shooting. But what good has come from this terrible tragedy? And we'll do together, recite together, experience together, and study together the divine quality, the divine name, Ya Ra'uf, which is quiet, loving peacefulness that appears and emerges even within the context of difficulty and lovingly relieves the suffering of others. And I believe the suffering of oneself while relieving the suffering of others. So I invite you to listen to audio file 2, and I send my love. this breath practice, this purification practice, is so important because it's like every day we gather impressions around us, and those impressions will stick to us. Sometimes we carry those things with us. I'm sorry, give me one moment. Okay, I'm just going to try to continue on. I think we've got some little feisty beings around that they're trying to disturb our peace, but we're not going to let it happen, right? So here we go. I have lost my cursor and I really need it. Excuse me for just a minute. There, I've got it again. Okay. One moment. And everybody's muted correctly, right? There we go. All right. So why are these so important? If you remember again, when we were talking about these levels of consciousness, we were looking at images of lamps, and the whole idea was polishing the lamp. And the thing is, these impressions are like, how your bathroom mirror can get stuff on it and you have to kind of clean it really good once a week or more. Our windows do because of the sea mist and the wind. And we have this amazing view. So why would we want that to get clouded? Just like that, why would I want my heart and soul to be clouded? Why wouldn't I want to keep the glass clean so I can have a clear view? Well, that's what these practices do for us. They give us a clear view of the world. And guess what? We get to begin anew every day as we do these practices because they purify those impressions. Someone says something hurtful and it can go round and round, or, we eat bad food, or, something happens to us. But these can purify all the levels of our beings so that we're not we're not hanging on to them. That's what I mean. They don't stick to us. We're polishing the glass. We're cleaning the mirror. We're wiping the windows. The globe over our light doesn't collect the dust because we don't allow it to, because we use these breaths. Is that clear to everyone? Does that make it understandable why it's so important? Okay. Okay. Too many messages. I'm worried it's someone that's trying to get in and I want to redirect people. I don't need to worry. All is in divine. But that's why I'm suggesting, now we took a long time to do those breaths, but if you do them on your own, it doesn't take much time. The truth is I think I can complete all my practices in 20 minutes or so. And that's because I focus on them. I don't allow myself to be distracted. If I'm distracted, I have them in a note in my phone or my computer. I can even read them if I find my mind's distracted. I can refocus myself. But the breath practices, oh, please try to remember to do them. It doesn't take long, and they are so beautiful and they give so much benefit. Okay, enough said. I'm moving on. I'm taking a little sip of water. This it blows my mind a little bit. Murshid knew everything. He was existing in all spheres. So this is what he says. The secret behind the whole manifestation is vibration. The secret behind the whole manifestation is vibration. Well, who else says this? The mystics of old, but the scientists of new. All the new physics are saying it's all about vibration going at different speeds. And what's more is there's quite possibly parallel universes that we don't just see right now because we're on one bandwidth. So Murshid says the secret behind the whole manifestation is vibration. Vibration, which may be termed movement. It is the different vibrations which may be divided into lines, and the lines, so again here, so here's one line, but if there are many lines, it forms a whole plane, and each plane being different in rhythm. Here we go. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Different. As we ourselves are different in rhythm from one another. When we take life as a whole, he says, we can draw one line. And this is so important. And he says this to us in many different ways throughout his teachings. So there's one line, okay? One line. And he says, at the beginning of that line, there's a beginning and there's an end. And at one point, we can call that spirit. And at the other point, we can call that matter. Spirit and matter. Or he also says God and ourselves. But the line is connected. We're connected. We're not broken and floating in space like an astronaut that lost their ship. We're connected. Okay. And he says, we shall find that the rhythm of that line begins, where it begins, it's very fine. And he says, without disturbance. So it's that sense of peace, which we're trying to, bring alive in this teaching. Peace. And the rhythm that is felt at the other end can be more gross and more disturbing. These are the jarring influences of our life. Okay. But he says these two rhythms may be named peace and sensation. Okay. Peace is independently felt within oneself. It is not dependent upon outer sensation, but we think it is. We think, if I only have this thing, this person, this body, this mind, whatever we want to think, or I could go do this activity and I'll have peace, or I'll go do this activity and I'll have happiness, or I'll do something and I'll become more enlightened. Well, it's in ourselves, is what he's teaching us. It is within ourselves. And he says it's something that belongs to us, something that is ourself. It's that seed that was planted on us, in us, in us. It's that seed of the divine. Peace is not knowledge, Murshid says. Peace is not power. Peace is not happiness, but peace is all of these. Peace is productive of happiness. Peace inspires one with knowledge of the seen and the unseen. And in peace is found the divine presence. It is not the excited one that conquers this continual battle in life. It is the peaceful one who tolerates all, who forgives all, who understands all, who assimilates all things. Now, this is interesting because when I think of things like this, I think of really great beings that inspire me. Murshid is one of them, but there are others. I mean, I think about Mahatma Gandhi, when he was striving for liberation of India, where he was imprisoned in the worst, most horrible prison in India. It was known for that. What happened? He had peace. The same thing with Sri Aurobindo. I don't know if you know of his teachings, but a great yogi of India's written. He was a scholar. He went to Oxford University, studied literature, and has written very much on spiritual matters. And he also attained enlightenment during imprisonment, during trying to seek liberation for India. These weren't good conditions, but where did they go? They weren't looking for a country club. They went in. When the conditions of the external world were not conducive, even to meditation, even to sanitation, even to good nutrition, they went in, they found that light. I think Nelson Mandela is also an example of that, where his wisdom and his brilliance came forward even more magnificent after years of imprisonment. I myself have met many lamas that were imprisoned 20, 30 years. Terrible conditions and terrible torment and terrible treatment. terrible humiliation even. And they're brilliant. They emerged filled with light because they knew how to go within. So again, it's not the excited one that conquers in this continual battle life. It is the peaceful one who tolerates all, forgives all, who understands all, and assimilates all things. Now we're getting to a practice, and that practice is Ra'uf. And Ra'uf is this magnificent quality of tolerance and kindness. But I want to tell a little story. That's why I said it's going to be a little bit longer class. I'll try to accelerate. We also had a glitch, forgive me. But yesterday, those of you that live in the United States, you're probably hearing on the news about the Remembrance Day of 25 years ago, which happens to be today, April 20th, of the incident in Columbine. Columbine was a high school where 14 people lost their lives through a mass shooter. Unfortunately, today, mass shootings are common, but this was one of the first ones, and it was really quite devastating to the country, and certainly you can imagine to the community and the families that lost people in that. So yesterday, we have something called the Today Show. It's a news format show, and there was a segment that was dedicated to this, and I wanted to share it because I think this is the quality of peace, deep peace, and a Rauf. And so I'm going to explain what I saw. So the newscaster went into the high school and she was speaking. The past principal that was there during the first incident and the current principal were there together. Now, the past principal has become an advisor to other schools that have endured this and how to cope with it. And the new principal says, we are not only surviving this situation, we're thriving. And the newscaster said they were in the cafeteria. She said, I know where the shootings took place were what was upstairs. It was the library. And Gemma and I know, anyone that's in an education, we had to go through a lot of training teaching college because these things were happening with such regularity in public spaces. And at first, the guidance was lock the doors, barricade yourselves, get the students under tables and protect yourself. Well, we found that didn't work because what happens if the shooter wants to get in, they will get in. And then the students are like lame ducks to get shot. So we had to develop strategies depending on what classroom we were in, where the armed intruder might have come into campus. You know, were we going to jump from the windows? Were we going to exit through it and then not run to parking lots where they could be on the roof? There were all kinds of things that we had to cope with in addition to teaching school, but we had to practice this and we had to talk about it with our students. So this day, the students were barricaded in the library. Well, when you look up, let me say there's a light now, a skylight that the light beams down. They removed that floor, and what they've replaced are these beautiful images of 13 aspen trees. Columbine's in California, and the aspen tree is a beautiful tree that's there. So these trees, there are 13 of them representing each person that lost their lives. But what happened? There was a teacher and coach in the cafeteria. He could see what was starting to happen. He ran up those stairs and he told the students, run, run. 12 of them didn't get away. And he didn't get away. He lost his life saving those children. Well, they asked his daughter. She spoke. And she said, you know, when it first happened, myself and my family, we said, he just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the newscaster said, and now? And she says, now we know he was in the right place at the right time. And the newscaster asked the daughter, how did you come to feel this way? And she said, since that time, so many people have come up to us and they say, if it wasn't for your father,
my children wouldn't be alive. If it wasn't for your father, I wouldn't be alive. And then she said, she even had one couple come up and say, this is our baby. Would you hold our baby in your arms? We want to tell you, because of your father, we were in that library, but we wouldn't be alive, and this baby wouldn't be alive. And she said, we realize he was in the right place at the right time because he saved all those lives. And not only those lives, but all the lives that would be to come in future generations. That's Ra'uf. And that's transforming something terrible into something beautiful through deep peace and understanding. And I thought that story, and it happens again today, it is the anniversary, the 25th anniversary of that. And I thought, as we say this practice, Ra'uf, and I'll tell you the meaning, we could think of those lives, and maybe we only say it 13 times for each one of them. Now, Ra'uf, Ra'uf, that ooh sound is like the who that the Sufis say. The who is, it means God is here right now. Who. And Rauf, it's like a coo. You know, that you hear that sound sometimes of the doves. Ooh, ooh. My father had said, I understand who, very first time he heard it, he said, I know the meaning of that. He called me the next day, he came to a Sufi event. He said, that who, he said, that's the sign. That's the sound that the dove makes, and the dove is a sign of peace. I mean, he totally got it just through sound. Well, that sound is the end of Rauf. Now, it means a quiet, loving peacefulness. But it's not just when, hey, I'm hanging out, everything's cool, I'm peaceful, everybody's peaceful. No, it's in the context of difficulties. And it's lovingness that relieves the suffering of others. And if we know how to do that, then we know how to relieve our own suffering. So you hear that quality of Rauf, I hope, in the story that I just told you, how that young woman was able to transform that life, that loss of her father, into something beautiful and meaningful. That's the quality of Rauf. Even in difficulties, this kind of loving kindness relieves the suffering. A Rauf is a kind of spiritual serenity, or it's serenity, which we could call spiritual confidence. And it allows us to overcome hostility, anger, and hate. And I hope none of you have endured it, but I have to tell you, with this face and this color skin, I've endured it. I felt it coming towards me. But you have to just consider this as a limitation of others. And if you can, be kind, and if not, be quiet and move on. Rauf is quiet, and it's a gentle expression of love. And this kind of love can go towards very hateful people and touch them in the depth of their soul. Now, how do we understand this? Because through our practices, if we can touch the depth of our soul, we can let that soul's light touch another. We don't have to speak of it. We don't have to really do anything. We just radiate. I inhale divine light and life. I radiate divine life and light. Okay, so now the last little piece is, it is said that Rauf comes from a deep seated place of indifference. Now we think of indifference of, I'm indifferent to that person, like you don't care, or I'm indifferent to what we do, I don't care. That isn't what Murshid means, not at all. So whenever you read that in the teachings, you must think what it really means is equanimity. What is equanimity? Equanimity is this place of balance within oneself, no matter what. And I know some of you are in the healthcare profession. or social work. You know what I'm talking about. You have to have this equanimity so that you can make the right decisions, so you can stay calm in spite of people's emotions, in spite of their pain, in spite of whatever's happening. You can remain calm and have equanimity, and indifference is the meaning of it, so that you can act from the best possible place to help that person. Does that make sense? So one more short little story. I'm full of it today, obviously. When I would go and do retreats with Pure Light, he would gather us for 10 weeks or 10 days or 2 weeks to learn, study, and be together, the leaders of the Sufi order at the time. And we would meet with him twice a day. We'd have evening activities. And in the meantime, we'd have smaller groups where we studied the various concentrations of healing, universal worship, and so forth, retreat guide training, and things like that. And we'd also have group meetings sometimes over lunch where we'd meet with our regional people in our area that were doing the work. This story to me is an embodiment of Rauf. So there's a woman that's there, and she said, and we knew her. She was doing chaplain work in the prisons. So she'd go in and, she'd listen to people and she'd pray with them, but they also did universal worship and things like that. So one day she was in her kitchen and it was a warm day. So she had her screens, her windows open, her screen door was open, and she was in the kitchen. And the kitchen was at the back of the home and the screen door was there. And she had her back turned. She was doing something at the sink and she heard something. And when she turned around, it was one of the prisoners that had been released was in her kitchen. And from the island, he had a knife that he had taken in his hand. And he came up to her and he grabbed her and he had the knife at her throat. You know what she did? She said, I love you. No, Jesus loves you, and so do I. Jesus loves you, and so do I. And she said, he didn't say a word. He dropped the knife and he ran away. I mean, that's how disarming Rauf can be. Jesus loves you, and so do I. Buddha loves you, and so do I. The universe loves you, and so do I. God loves you, and so do I. That's Rauf. She stayed calm. She thought, if this is the moment of my death, these are the last words I wish to say. And it totally disarmed him. Okay. So let's say Rauf for each of those 12 teenagers and their coach that saved others. And we'll intone it. Listen to me for a couple of times, and then I'll start to count. So we're going to say, Ya Rauf, Ya Rauf. Remember, there's an F at the end. Say it with me. 11, I'll count for us. 13 times. Ya Rauf. 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 And may this vibration touch those souls that have departed, but also their families that bore that loss, the community. May they be strengthened by love and kindness and tolerance. I think this is complete. I think there's nothing more. I have more here. I will continue this next month. Okay. So let's close with the prayer, Khatun. O thou who art the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the Lord of heaven and earth, open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly cometh from within. Disclose to us thy divine light, which is hidden in our souls, that we may know and understand life better. Most merciful and compassionate God, give us thy great goodness. Teach us thy loving forgiveness. Raise us above the distinctions and differences which divide men. Send us the peace. Send us the peace. Send us the peace of thy divine spirit, and unite us all in thy perfect being. Amen. And if there's anything at all that's been of benefit today, may it extend out from us in ever widening circles, touching all beings, so that they may live in peace and equanimity and feel loved. And I know a lot of you are so kind and generous. Probably almost every one of you is you give on a monthly basis, but I do always remind people to think of making a contribution if you feel this has spoken to me and you. It spoke to me. I hope it spoke to you. And I just send you my love. Let this message go with you.